Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute snowman display.
Take a little piece of 260 and just tie a knot and then tie a second knot at the same point. This is to create what we call a raisin, and then just cut off the excess latex either side of the knot. Okay, so you're just left with that double knot. Insert that raisin into your 11-inch white balloon. It will go in. Yes, it's gone through. Inflate your white balloon all the way, and I recommend that you hang on to the raisin as you start inflating, and then once you start inflating, you let go. Otherwise, there is a risk that the raisin could drop through into the nozzle of your inflator, and that can break your inflator. So once you've started to inflate and the air is being pushed through the inflator, that is going to keep the raisin inside the balloon. So just at the beginning, hang on to it. I like to give my balloon a little shake to make sure that the raisin is still inside. Okay, and just let out a little bit of air, and then tie a knot, and tie high on the neck. Tie a soft knot, so don't pull that knot tightly, and just roll that knot up a little bit. Okay, that's just going to enable us to squish the balloon a little bit. And then grab hold of that raisin, put a twist in the balloon, take hold of that 160, wrap around a few times, then pull each end and tie a knot. So keep hold of the raisin whilst you're doing this. Okay, and once you've secured that knot, you can tie a second knot. Okay, inflate your second 11-inch. So inflate your second 11-inch to about 10 inches and then tie a knot. And then tie the two balloons together. So tie on with the neck and then with the tails of the 160, which you can now cut away. Okay. I'm using a marble print balloon. These aren't 11-inch balloons, I think they're probably 9 inches. So I'm going to inflate this one to about 7 inches or so. I'm going to downsize a little bit, let out some of the air. Okay, so I want quite a nice round shape. Put a twist in the neck and tie. Okay, I'm now going to tie that directly to the top of the head. Inflated blue 350, let some air out and tie. Okay, so I've got a tail, a long tail of about 7 fingers. I'm not going to use all of this, but I am going to give it a little squeeze. Wrap that 350 around the base of the marble print. We don't want it to fit too snugly, and just pass that knot and nozzle underneath. I put a twist here, and I like to pass the neck and nozzle through, and then I can just snip off the end here and tie. And tie. Okay, and then I can just trim off the excess. Inflated 260. Again, we don't need to inflate it all the way. Let out a little bit of air to soften and tie. Give your balloon a little squeeze just to soften. And then I'm going to wrap this underneath the 350. So it's below there. And then I'm just going to twist off here. I'm going to wrap that neck and nozzle underneath that twist that I've just made, as I did before with the balloon. And then I'm just going to make a bubble here, a smallish bubble of a couple of fingers, which I'm going to pinch twist. Okay? So that's what you've got. Snip off the end. And tie knot. And cut off any excess. Next, inflate another 350 most of the way. I've just got a small tip at the end, and I'm going to let out a little bit of air here just to soften, and then tie. So wrap the coral around your snowman's neck. I've got a tip of just about a finger, and in this section here I'm going to make a pinch twist. Okay, so twist off a bubble. Give your balloon a squeeze to send the air to the end, and then twist off another bubble. So that's a bubble of about 4 fingers or so. Bend that over, wrap it round and twist. Twist it round a few times, okay? Give that a little bit of a wiggle just to add some shaping. And then we can bring the rest of the balloon round and wrap it around the neck, and then wrap loosely into this pinch twist here. Okay, so I'm just going to make a twist. Oops, just going to make a twist in the coral, and then wrap that into the pinch twist. Okay, we've got a bit of movement here in the scarf.
For the face, I like to draw 2 large ovals that I angle inwards. Don't worry if these aren't the same size or shape, and then just use the flat of the Sharpie to colour in the eyes. I like to put a little mark where I'm planning to put the nose, and I like to draw a nice big smile that finishes in line with the eyes, the middle of the eyes. I also like to add some eyebrows, and once the black has dried, I add white highlights to the eyes using an Edding 750 paint pen. I'm using a chocolate brown 160. If you haven't got any 160s, don't worry, use a 260 instead. Their arms will just be a little bit chunkier, but that works equally well. So I'm going to let out quite a little bit of air here. So I want a nice stretchy bit here. Okay, so I've probably got about 2 to 3 inches there. Let a little bit more out, okay? And tie. Okay, so I want to measure against my snowman's body how long I want the arms to be. I don't want arms that are too long, so I'm going to twist off a section there that is somewhere between 3 and 4 inches. Okay, I'm just going to check again. I'm happy with that. I might go just fractionally longer. I think that is more like 4 inches. Okay, set your snowman aside, then break off the rest and tie a knot in this section and tie a knot in this section. But again, we're going to want quite a bit of stretch. So if we measure the size of arm we want, we can tie that section. And we can tie this section off as well. I'm just going to snip the end here and tie that. Okay, so those are my 2 little arms. Inflate another chocolate brown. We're not going to use all of this. Let a little bit of air out just to soften, and then tie. Okay. take one of your arms, and I am going to use this end to tie on with. So at this end, make a little bubble of about 1.5 inches, and then wrap that into a similar size bubble here. Okay, and then make another little bubble, similar size. They don't have to be exact, don't worry. And break this off, tie a knot here. Okay, and then in this section here that we've saved, just tie that off. Okay, so we've got our little hand here, and we can tidy up the ends, just trim off the ends. Okay, and then do the same thing with your second arm. And then take the tails here in those chocolate brown 1/60s and just tie the ends together. Okay, so you've got this stretch duplicate. Take your snowman and just pass the arms around the neck, underneath the scarf, and then just pull them in position. So they're just pressure fitted there. Okay. For the nose, I'm using a small piece of 260 orange. So just inflate to the end. And then I just want a very small section. Okay, about that big, and tie. And then trim off the end. Okay. Use a glue dot or a U-glue dash, and I like to position it quite close to the knot, but not over the knot, and then attach that to your snowman's face. And then I like to add a little bit of blusher to the cheeks, just at this point here, on each side. So I just apply in a circular motion.
Inflate your balloons to 8 inches. Place the two duplicates over one another and just swap places and form a cluster of 4. Inflate the next set to 6 inches. Place a smaller cluster on top of the larger cluster. Pull one of the necks up from the base, through into the centre, and just wrap around the top layer in a figure of 8 motion. Okay. Take a water weight or a sand weight, pull that through the centre of the cluster of balloons right through to the top, and wrap that neck around again in a figure of 8 until you run out of neck. Okay, and that really connects everything together really well.
If you wanted your snowman to be standing completely straight on the base, then instead of an 11-inch round, you could use a 12-inch quick link or a linkaloo, and then you could attach this directly to the base. I want my snowman to look a little more animated. I want him slightly to one side, so I am going to attach him to the base in a slightly different way. And to make sure I get the angle I want, I'm going to look at him this way. I'm going to use some U-glue dashes, and I'm just looking where he's connecting, and I'm going to put 4 dashes on each of the balloons. Well, 1 dash on each of the blue balloons. Okay, and let me just see, make sure they will connect. I think I might need to put couple higher here. I might just have missed the mark with those 2. So it's always worth checking just before you remove the tape. So I am happy with those. I can remove the backing tape So I'm just going to check the angle again before I commit. And there we go. Okay, just hold him in position just for a few seconds. But these U-glued ashes and the T-Rex tape, they bond really very, very quickly. I'm using one of these air fill only candy canes. Okay, so once you have filled the candy cane, you need to make sure that you hang on to the neck of the balloon, okay? And I like to just run my fingers along the neck up towards the balloon, and then I get my heat sealer, and you will know your heat sealer better than I do. I am on a setting that is approaching 4. So this section has to be perfectly flat, and what I want to do is seal here very close to the opening. So I'm just going to depress this once and then release, okay? And that has sealed perfectly well, okay? And the reason I like to do just one seal close to the neck is because you can reuse these, and if you want to do that, you can just cut this away, let it deflate, and then you could reseal this again at some point in the future. So I want my candy cane to be positioned this way, so I'm just going to run my fingers along the valve and then bend that over and just tape it in position here. Okay, so it just keeps it nicely out of the way. And then with a couple of glue dots, I'm just going to attach the candy cane to my snowman.